Well, I find it quite interesting that the mainstream media is finally being forced to pay attention to one of the biggest issues of our time. A thing which has been discussed amongst ordinary citizens for probably the last 10 years. They're finally catching up. And that's only because they're being forced into it. So these reports regarding massive surveillance of U.S. citizens, or anybody else for that matter, regarding our internet communications, our phone communications, whatever is out there in terms of electronic mediums, in terms of any communication whatsoever, is now being exposed for the fraud that it is. This story simply could not be no longer suppressed because already too many people know about it. And as usual, the leakers of that information are going to be pursued to no end. So expect this coming from the mainstream media to basically attack the messengers of what is actually going on. Namely, in this case, Glenn Greenwald or The Guardian or any other journalist who had any kind of gumption to put questions out there which are alerting the citizens of all countries, of all nations, not just ours, all nations, that basically we live in a surveillance society. Now, after 9/11, the entire idea was posited that, we need to have enough surveillance in order to keep our country safe. There needs to be a balance, as Obama just said, between security and privacy, and that this balance basically is being met. Only now, of course, we're finding out, as many of us have suspected all along, that this balance is actually decided by secret courts. Now, basically, and I'm just an average citizen, okay? Basically, when I hear something about secret courts deciding the fate of an entire nation, their citizens or whatever, that to me, rings a little alarm bell. Because it means that if anything is conducted in secret, especially when Obama, as the candidate for presidency, espoused the notion of transparency, I think it's cause for worry. In other words, the very person who proclaimed that, we're going to run a government based on transparency, when in actuality it's not happening, when in actuality it is the exact opposite of that, and when we're constantly being told by this government, the Obama administration, and before that Bush, and before that Clinton, and every other administration during the last 30 years or so is proclaiming that our security depends on giving up our rights to privacy. Now, in comes the American consumer, and I regard myself as a consumer. I also regard myself as a normal citizen, So if I want to have a job, if I put in an application, necessarily in this day and age, I will have to submit my applications via the internet. So there's no way that I can opt out of this in any reasonable fashion whatsoever. Even the employment department requires me to sign up to the internet. Okay? So basically, what we're being forced into is a massive surveillance system which not even the Soviets or the Stasi could have ever dreamt of. And this is why certain whistleblowers, out of their own volition, and you have to imagine what this would be like for somebody who puts out this information with incontrovertible evidence that this is taking place, what kind of risks these people are taking to their own lives and to the lives of everyone who is connected to them. This is not, this is not Alex Jones bullshit, okay? Alex Jones isn't taking any chances. Alex Jones is basically your average, everyday conspiracy theorist who thinks that the UN is actually some worldwide government, when in actuality, the UN Security Council, just look at the makeup of it, okay? So it becomes completely ludicrous for him to even speak out on that issue. Anyway, don't listen to fearmongers, because this is really going to ratchet up now. Don't listen to fearmongers. What we're facing here is, basically, we have to concede the fact that we are living in a nation in which every form of communication is controlled. Controlled and observed. Okay? This is the bottom line. Because if you think that you're just, sending your emails to your friends or whatever, that this is all some sort of, massive data mining, it's not going to impact anything that you do because you think you've done nothing wrong, and so on. This is a mistake. This massive data collection on everybody in the United States and elsewhere, anywhere across the globe who uses the internet, basically, is an assumption that computers, algorithms, and so on, search words, keywords, and so on, can make a determination on whether you or anybody else is an enemy of the state or not. Now, you can have massive, massive data collection without even reading the contents of emails or even watching the videos, as long as it fits certain key words. So if you mention anything on YouTube, on Google, wherever else, through your phone calls, and you mention even the word terrorist, or even the word surveillance, or even the word NSA, or even the word government, for that matter, is going to be flagged. Now, this kind of algorithm, of course, is gonna lump you into one section, and then another section will be, pushed off to the Justin Bieber type thing, entertainment business, and so on. It's a valid distinction, because people who think that entertainment is just the NSA isn't gonna count your entertainment values on the internet. But that's true. That's probably true. Nobody gives a shit who listens to I don't know, media personalities, except of course the big ones, Oprah Winfrey, all these multimillionaires, Deepak Chopra. Oh man, it's like, yeah, these people are great. Let's just enforce the entire vision for the country that certain gurus, especially millionaires, are going to be setting the stage for people to believe in anything. Anything. Okay? Anything is possible. Well, of course, any oppressive government would love that. They would absolutely love that. Let's just dumb down all communication, all stupefaction of the people, and they'll be just fine with what we do. So, I think the first thing we have to admit as American citizens is this. Number one, we do not live under constitutional rules anywhere close to that at this point. That's number one. Number two, if you think that the market, corporations, in collusion with government, are going to bring about freedom and liberty, as certain partisans will have you believe, that is also a mistake, because that's the very definition of fascism. And the naive notion that all of us can simply opt out of the internet, just quit the internet, turn your TV off, turn your cell phone off, turn everything off. That is no longer an option for young people who want to find employment, who are totally connected, totally dependent on the system. So, this is what us older folks, like me, I'm 57 now. This is what older folks like us warned against. But we were dismissed summarily. And we were told, you know what? All your concerns about your privacy, it's all, you're overstating things totally. Nobody is going to surveil you. No, I had a personal friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, years ago, at least 15 years ago, tell me, there's no problem with ads on your internet. It's a financing option. Basically, don't be worried about cookies on your browser. Don't be worried. It's all for greater good. Well, we're now seeing how this greater good is actually working out. Basically, the greater good seems to be to keep people marginally engaged in the economy. That is, if you still want to find a job in the United States, you basically have to be connected to the internet. There's no other option. And for those outside of the developed nations, they're not connected at all, despite the fact that you seem to think that they are, So it's like people in Bangladesh and these factories that are burning down. For some reason, Westerners think that these people are all connected to the internet. Well, I have news for you. They're not. They're not even anywhere close to being connected to the internet. So this is, I guess, my mega rant. Is the internet good or is it bad? Well, in some aspects, it's both good and bad. But we have to consider the dangers of this technology, while not dismissing its positive side, okay? The internet, per se, was developed as an intranet. In other words, a communication system for the government and the military to communicate internally in case something really went wrong. Well, then, of course, people became aware that it had commercial potential for all of this, just like any other technology. So inherently, it's not an evil thing. It's not evil, But what we need to be aware of is, and be perfectly clear about, is that we are living in a total surveillance society. Basically, anything you do, anything you put out there on the internet, okay, just like my YouTube video here, can be surveilled by anybody who is in control of that information, who has access to that information at a much higher level. And since this kind of system is the perfect setup for the abuse of individual rights, and even not even individual rights, but also common rights of the people. So this is not an argument between individual rights and the common good. This is an argument against all. Because no serious dissent against one's own government, no matter how reasonable and justified it may be, could ever come about under such a system once everyone is surveilled preemptively. And so this is the horrific nature of this surveillance. Any even peaceful protests can now be preempted from the outset. In other words, your groups can be infiltrated via the internet, via various, agent provocateurs from the very beginning in order to disrupt any kind of dissent to any kind of government whatsoever. And so the internet itself has become a farce. And it's not like I have any concrete answers to this. I don't. I wish I did. This is an extremely important issue because none of us can reasonably opt out of this system without sabotaging it. And there are now saboteurs emerging in the internet, on the internet. People technologically savvy enough to basically throw a wrench into the system. And while I'm not saying that you should, say the go-ahead for throwing a total wrench into the system, I think it's very interesting to observe this because we're all being observed. We're all being observed as of now. Not that people will read your individual emails or anything like that, listen to your phone calls. That's not the problem. The problem is the massive data collection, okay? The massive presumptions being made based on certain keywords on every single American citizen or any citizen of any country for that matter. Based on certain keywords, some analysis or introspection will be triggered. Most of these, of course, will bring about completely false positive results. And this is the danger here, is the false positive results. This is not about protecting us from terrorism. No, it's basically a massive apparatus of surveillance of every single thing that you do in your life. And people, especially the younger generation, is perfectly fine with that. Well, I shouldn't say that. Some of them are actually not fine with that. And I applaud those people who are not fine with this and who can see through the scheme. Basically, anything you say in private or in public can be used against you for any purpose. Whoever gets access to that information can use it. So it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong at all. You can be perfectly within the bounds of the law, but whatever you say within, your own private sphere can then be broadcasted, or even if you put it out there for the public to see, can then be misconstrued against you by whoever is in control. And rest assured, the American citizens are no longer in control of our government, nor is any other citizen of any other country in control of their government. What this will amount to is a massive control of communications across the globe, the commercialization of speech for profit, and basically the squashing of all dissent and all dissenting opinions on this planet. So this is what we have to look forward to. And it comes as no surprise that Glenn Greenwald, is being credited with putting this information out there. Actually, he just took he just took the bull by the horns and said, look, here it all is. We have the evidence for this. Whistleblowers came out to us, not only to WikiLeaks, not only, through other channels. This is what it is. And you can rest assured that Glenn Greenwald or anybody else that is actually upholding those standards is going to be questioned on their integrity, on their personal lifestyle, on their whatever flaws they have, okay? And this is, in fact, that's already happening. You can see the New York Times basically trashing Greenwald for his reportage. And the fact that he was a constitutional lawyer, for Christ's sake. Oh, heaven forbid. He actually mentioned constitutional laws. But at the same time, they're just calling him a blogger. No big deal. He just, he just got his, basically he operates outside the law. This is the framework that's being set up here. This is the framework. So anybody who speaks out against anything is now going to be framed, I don't know, I guess the news epithet is going to be, a blogger or an independent person or independent journalism or, whatever else fits, a commie, a corporate swine. It's like this is leading us into oblivion, people. This is cementing a total surveillance state in which everyone is considered guilty before they are considered as people. We're all numbers now. We're all numbers. It is all, as our president just proclaimed, completely lawful. Only one must not question those laws. In several, well, I shouldn't say several, but in most oppressive regimes, everything is cemented by law. I mean, this should be obvious. The law allows you to oppress people, okay? This is the law. This doesn't mean that the laws are legitimate. This doesn't mean the laws should not be questioned. So the entire argument that everything is within the framework of the law is basically a null argument by now. I'm not against this administration in particular. I'm not an Obama hater, but what I do hate about Obama more than anybody else, probably in the last 10 years in office, is that he lied blatantly about what he was all about. This is actually far worse than Bush or others before him. Bush told you where he was at. He wanted to basically give you up your privacy for security. He was very blatant about it. And many, many people fell for it, especially Republicans. But these are not Republican versus Democratic issues anymore, you see? Because Republicans, well, okay, they voted, and liberals fell for the same bullshit line from Obama. So this is not about Obama, Bush, Republican versus Democrat. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. These entities or the parties don't give a shit what the American citizen or any citizen of any country thinks, for that matter. This is all about control. This is all about controlling and manipulating public opinion. Okay? And I am opting out of this by basically, I look at it, I can discern it, I can analyze it on my own. I can listen to voices. I can, it's not like I'm ignorant of what's going on in the media spectrum anywhere. People sometimes log onto my channel. They think, because I'm subscribed to RT News, that somehow I agree with their viewpoints. No, it's just another propaganda channel from the Russian perspective. It's equally controlled from where they're coming from, So don't take this as an endorsement of RT News. Unfortunately, Americans can only see certain aspects of international developments via that network, but that's not to say that the Russians aren't getting the same kind of bullshit via our channels, So I guess I shouldn't really be that upset about it, but I am glad that it's finally reached the mainstream news because unless the American people want to have a debate about how secure they want to be in terms of any kind of possible terrorist act out there versus their privacy and the First Amendment and the right to free speech, then we should be worried about this. We should really be worried about this. And the way I see it, probably, this will be news for I don't know how long, 5 weeks or so. People will be arguing for and against all of this, and then it will be forgotten. The next tornado will come, the next hurricane will come, and it will all be forgotten. And this is basically the way the American public functions now. We are consumers. We try to stay employed, and only anything in the immediate sense, right now will matter to us. And this will be basically the downfall, not only of America, but, basically for civilization in the long run. It's not as if America is some sort of an exceptional nation. Our country is only, 260 years old? We're not exceptional. We're not exceptional to anybody else except in our initial proclamations for certain ideals. Okay? But all these ideals are gone now. And perhaps they were from the beginning. So I guess that's my rant for tonight because I simply don't know what to do about it. But if you don't speak out against this massive surveillance, of every citizen here and globally, then why are you even making videos anymore? It's completely idiotic. Okay? If I'm going to buy into this and say, okay, fine, I have to give my name to YouTube now, in order to gain unemployment. In order to gain employment, well, whatever, the case may be, might lead to that. But is this not a total surveillance state? Total control? I am not okay with this. And most citizens, regardless of whether they used to be Republicans, they used to be Democrats, or whoever else is out there, nobody agrees with this policy. And it's probably too damn late, to turn the clock back because all this technology is so much in place. We would never know the difference if they said to us, look, we stopped it all. We stopped the surveillance. Who would know? Who of us would know if this actually happened? So this is the portrayal of the distrust in government, the distrust in all ordinary institutions which were supposed to be for the people. And people in all countries probably feel the same, that they have been betrayed by the leadership. by the leadership in their own countries. So I'll make a follow-up video to this because, you know, in terms of leadership, this is another sticky issue. But perhaps, you know, we're trusting, we're too trusting that things can change overall. And this is going to be a learning experience for anybody who lives in America, that they actually still believe that they live in a free society. You know, I mean, this is a joke. It's a joke. So if you can't wrap your head around this, and if you still think you live in some sort of a free society, I wish you good luck. I wish you really good luck in the next society, which isn't going to be free at all, you know, in which you will participate, no doubt, and try to eke out a living. Good night.